When I woke up this morning, I found this house to be empty. It was strange. I seriously doubt my family would leave my aunt's house without me on Christmas morning. Something wasn't right. All the miscellaneous place pictures of me that were on the walls and heart were gone. All other photos were still in place. Another thing that struck me as odd was the fact that there was no gifts that just last night were placed under the Christmas tree this morning. What the hell, I thought to myself. Everything is gone. Even the stuff I left for my parents. Just then, I heard a loud guttural growl that made me practically jump out my skin. I quickly turned my head to see my dog baring her teeth. In a semi-defensive position, she stared at me, at a terrified look in her eyes as she growled. I took a step towards her, and she ran into another room as fast as she could. She did, however, leave me a nice pea stain in the carpet though. Darn, I muttered under my breath. Something definitely isn't right. I walked through the house and everything was a mess. Tables and chairs were turned over and lamps were smashed. It looked as if a tornado went through the place. I felt like crap. I guess a good analogy would be I felt as the house looked. I felt as if the cement truck had just punched me in my gut. I went upstairs to go to the bathroom and wash myself. The smell of cigarette smoke and cheap booze filled the air. I wondered what was going on. In the bathroom, I looked in the mirror and I must say, I looked like a picture of the living dead. I was that white as a frickin' sour cream. My pupils were dilated to a size I never knew that was natural. It was almost as if my eyes themselves were black. Quite disconcerted. I walked through the house at a slow pace. Taking my time, I noticed my father's black suit and tie were missing. That shouldn't be anything disturbing to me, but for some reason, I couldn't shake the bad feeling that was coming from deep within my gut. As I walked down the stairs, I looked out my window and noticed my dad's black Cadillac Converge was missing from the driveway. So was my mum's Trilliz's 300C. I was annoyed that they just left me alone like this, whenever it was 3 miles away from my aunt's house. Whatever, I thought. It was only 3 miles away from my aunt's house. I put on my jacket, I walked down to the door quietly, being careful not to scare my dog, more than she already was. It was a cold day, which was to be expected on a late December day in Capitol Hill, Boston, Massachusetts. There was a mass of people congregating around the junction, around the 3 blocks away from my house. I couldn't make any detail, but I could see the outline of a black car. It had hit the side of a 2-family house. The front half of the car was inside the damn living room. I had a natural aversion to things like that. Despite being so worried about the driver and the potential passengers, I kept moving. Nothing else seemed to be out of the ordinary on my walk. Just your typical Boston good morning, which is a bump on the shoulder and any several established cusses. I arrived at my aunt's house, and about 2 hours after setting off, yes, I took my sweet time, looking in the window, I could see several family members, nuclear family included, huddled around the table. I was mad at hell, but then I took a good hard look at everyone inside. All of them had a somber look on their faces for such a joyous holiday. Each person had a black suit or dress on. By then my anger had faded away, and I quickly walked through the door as opposed to bursting through it, which was what I wanted to do. As soon as my foot crossed the threshold, a bright light enveloped me. I felt like I was drowning in light, and then everything went dark. When I came to, I walked out of my room, and there was still nothing under the tree. Both cars were still gone. I was more confused than what I woke up this morning. There was no way my parents would have brought me home and left me there to go back to my aunt's house. I decided to go back. Once again, I put on my jacket and left the house. I remembered that the 3 blocks away there was an accident, and I figured I wouldn't be a pussy this time and check it out. The crowd was gone, and there was only 2 squad cars. One was on the corner, and the other one was right next to the crashed car. I walked right out to the car and was disturbed by the fact that the cop, eating donuts and reading the Boston Globe, did not take any notice of my presence, despite the fact I walked right by them. I dreaded looking inside the car, and I hesitated for a few minutes. I wasn't going to let myself walk away, even though I felt like I was going to throw up. I bent over and horrified to see a bloody pulp of a man that looked like me pinned into a seat by the dashboard. Blood continued to roll down his forehead. His hands still clutched the steering wheel white-knuckled, and a look of horror was still spread across his face. Rigor mortis is a beautiful thing. In the distance, I saw an ambulance cruising towards in the car with the lights flashing and the speakers occasionally letting out a beep or two. In a state of disbelief, I rushed round the whole back of the car, only to be greeted by the Cadillac Insignia. I rushed to the squad car and started yelling at the cops, hoping to get a response. No one. None came. I ran to the nearby driveway and picked up my pebbles and started throwing them to the cop's window. He suddenly sat up, alert, and he turned his head to my direction. With a quizzical look on his face, he turned his head away as if he didn't see me and went back to his donuts and the morning paper. I ran as fast as I could, but I only got a few feet away when I tripped on something. As I hit the ground and lay there, as a bright white light, exactly like the one from before, came over me again. It all came back to me in a flash, pulling up the driveway, running through the red lights, worried that I would be late, getting T-bombed by that damned Kia, shielding my face with my hands from the shattered glass, trying desperately to gain control of my car again, going through the wall of the two family, being pinned to my seat by the dashboard, and finally choking up my own blood as wilted by in the lungs. When I woke up this morning, I found this house to be empty. It was strange. I seriously doubt my family would leave my aunt's house without me on Christmas morning. Something wasn't right. All the miscellaneous place pictures of me that were on the walls and heart were gone. All other photos were still in place. Another thing that struck me as odd was the fact that there was no gifts that just last night were placed under the Christmas tree.